Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first installment of Sinai Speaks. You can expect a fantastic program every Wednesday evening, often in person and sometimes online. So we're just thrilled to welcome you tonight, where we have the chance, we don't always get the chance to do this, but to kind of have a fireside chat, a Cone Chapel chat about our High Holy Day preparation. Welcome, Rabbi Sherman.
Welcome. It's so good to be here with you.
It is so good to be here with you. I haven't seen you all day. For those that don't know, we are co-senior rabbis together at Sinai Temple. We are also married, and our offices happen to be back to back. So we do see each other all day long, but we don't often get to talk about this, which is one of our favorite conversations to have with congregants and to have, I think, internally. But we don't usually together speak about what it means to have High Holy Day personal and professional preparation. So I throw it at you. How do you personally prepare for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur?
So this is a little inside look into our own lives and even our family, but we really consider Sinai Temple our family. And you know this because you hear these sounds. I actually prepare by listening, of course, to sermons and different words of inspiration, but music. To hear the familiar melodies of whether it's Kol Nidre with choir, organ, or just different communal singing. Some of the melodies that we love, Cantor Finkelstein's Rosh Hashanah, Benjamin Fingerhut and Ariel Cohen, and Cantor Feldman's new renditions, but also the old traditional melodies that I grew up with that I like to bring to our community, and also to see how we can innovate. And so the sounds of the High Holy Days sometimes are as important as the words that we have in this book here in the Machzor. What about you?
Well, okay, before I get to my personal ones, I want to say two things. First of all, when you said sounds of the season, I thought you were actually referring to the kind of competition in our home. Our children love blowing the shofar.
It's out.
And so you always know it's the beginning of the school year. It's the beginning of Elul. I think the first day of Elul was the first day of the school year.
And I think our neighbors know that too.
Our neighbors know that too. So we apologize for anyone who lives next door to us or across the street. But that's often a way that I think we personally prepare as a family. Our kids kind of have shofar blowing competitions. I wonder if your family's like ours. That's what happens in a rabbinic family. And then the other thing is that, yes, I know that you listen to music of the season. But often we hear Kol Nidre kind of blasting from the kitchen at 11 p.m. So also very different in the Guzik Sherman household. But other ways that I like to personally prepare, starting today, I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but starting today, I'm going to take out my honey jar collection. And I've received beautiful honey jars from friends and family and congregants and from around the world. And so I'm excited to take out all of my honey jars and just display them around my living room, around the kitchen. It gives me a feel like our home is also infused with the spirit of the season. And then I always try, I have not found one yet, so feel free to send me one, but I always try to find a fun apple / honey recipe to bring out during the new year. So sometimes it's like a honey cake or an apple crisp, something like that. But if you have a favorite recipe that you love, please send it my way. I love to cook.
Apple crisp bake-off of Sinai Temple.
Apple crisp bake-off.
I think it's interesting that we each focus on different senses.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
I have the ears, you're doing the nose and the taste.
That's true.
And we sort of complete that, the Rosh Hashanah sense through ritual items, through food, through music. And I think every one of us, not just you and me, but everybody that we're speaking to in our community has a different entry point into the holidays.
True. Okay, so we mentioned the shofar, and one of the ways that people prepare, as we said, is by blowing the shofar. But rabbis also love sharing shofar stories. And so we thought we might each share a special kind of shofar lesson with all of you, ones that help us prepare, and we hope that will help you prepare too. So shofar story.
So thankfully you told me which shofar story you were going to use, so I'm going to look for a different one. But this one is a more historical one that I found, which was in 1945 when Bergen-Belsen was liberated by the Allies. And it was at that moment that nobody could really understand that they could really have a new year after they're survivors of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. But one survivor snuck in to the camps a shofar, but it was broken. And when it came time of Rosh Hashanah after the Holocaust concluded, this survivor decided to blow the shofar.
Wow.
When they did, it didn't sound like the Tikiyah Gedolah like we hear at Sinai, like everybody expects that huge big blast, but it was basically a small, broken Tikiyah Gedolah. And it was one survivor that said, that broken shofar was the truest sound of the shofar that I have ever heard. It was the sound of life. We are still here. We are still Jews, and we still believe in tomorrow. And I think the message of that story is actually Psalm 27 that we started to say the month of Elul, and we don't stop saying until after thy holidays, after Sukkot, to the last moment where we can have repentance. And that this shofar, it's an instrument, but it's an instrument of hope. And so that is just one shofar. I know of so many, or in times that we feel hopeless, the shofar gives us those moments where we can be hopeful.
That's a beautiful story.
Your shofar story?
Okay, a little different. The shofar comes a little bit after the story, but there's a parable that's told where the townspeople have assigned one person the task of kind of ringing a bell in the moments of a fire erupting. And so a gentleman was visiting this town, and he heard a bell ring, and he asked what's happening with this ringing of the alarm. And they said, watch what will happen. And it was correct. There was a fire on the roof of one home. But by the time the bell had finished ringing, people had already started bringing buckets and buckets and buckets of water. And so the fire was immediately put out. And the man thought, this is the most ingenious idea. You just have to assign someone to ring the bell, and then people will come and bring buckets of water, and as a community, they'll put out the fire. So he goes home to his own town, and he shares the message with his community, and they assign someone with the ringing of the bell. Well, lo and behold, a fire breaks out, and the bell is ringing and ringing and ringing, and he is watching as the fire is spreading from one roof to another, to another, to another. And he realized that, yes, they had assigned someone the ringing of the bell, but no one felt any kind of initiative or responsibility to bring the buckets of water. And I relate that to the blowing of the shofar, because you can have the best shofar blower in town. And we have many. We have many. And we're not going to name all of you, but we have great shofar blowers at Sinai Temple. And you can sit back, or rather stand. You can stand and watch that person turn red in the face and have the longest, as you said, Tikiyah Gedolah that you've ever heard. But if you don't feel that kind of soulful stirring within you to act, to cry, to mend, to whatever it is, walk out in this world and change what needs to be changed, then the fire continues to grow and grow, but it's not the fire that you want. That's the fire of destruction. You want the fire of creation. I saw somewhere some kind of meme or something that said, everybody wants the village. Everybody wants to be a part of the village, but not everyone's willing to be a villager. I love that statement. Everyone wants, we've been talking about this a lot, everyone wants a community to support them in their time of need or also in their time of celebration. But in order for a community to be present, you have to be a community member.
It actually reminds me of what is the mitzvah of the shofar. Im kivein libo yatsa, im lo kivein libo lo yatsa. But you only fulfill the obligation of the shofar, lishmoa kol shofar. The person that's blowing the shofar says the blessing. It's not the obligation to blow the shofar, but it's the obligation to listen. It says that if you're walking by another synagogue and hear the shofar, it doesn't count because you're not at the synagogue where you're going to, where you're hearing that shofar. And I think the idea of community is really also this idea of not just hope, but also of intention. What intention do you have as being the villager in order to make sure that there is a village, not just for us, but also for our children and the next generations too?
If you didn't catch that, that was our unintentional way of saying invest in your community, become a member of your synagogue. We need you just as much as you need us. That wasn't meant to be part of this, but we're putting it in anyway.
But it is kivein libo. That's the season of intent of your heart.
Direct your heart.
And it's not just our hearts, but it's also the desires of the Holy One as well. Also, an interesting story in the Bible that I've been studying with the Learning Circle, another plug for something that we're doing here. If you're not part of our Learning Circle, make sure you contact us and we'll find one for you. But in my Learning Circle, we're studying the book of Joshua. And in the war of the book of Joshua, how do they conquest the city of Jericho? It's not by weapons, but as the rabbis call the shofar, it's actually a weapon of faith. That they circle the city 7 times. They sort of put down their weapons, and while they do, they blow the shofar. And only when they blow this instrument of hope are they able to enter the city. And in these very difficult times for the Jewish people around the world, the shofar also can be this message of hope, that it is, I don't like to say a weapon, but an instrument, because when you do blow the shofar as a musician, you might think, oh, let me blow it through the big piece and something will call it the small. But actually we put our mouth into the small piece and out of it comes a very large noise. And so this message in the Bible is found in the book of Joshua, but I think it's as relevant to our lives today as Jews in the diaspora in 2025, thousands of years later.
So I would just want to share on that note my favorite High Holy Day teaching. And I never feel like it's Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur unless I share this story. And the story is of Rabbi Salanter. And I know you know the story because I shared it.
I love listening to it every year.
And what he says is that one night, it was, probably almost midnight, he was walking along the street and he noticed that there was a light on in the shoemaker's store. And he thought to himself, okay, I'm kind of going on my, nightly walk, but why would the shoemaker still be here so late? The pitch of night doesn't seem like the most opportune time to be working or meeting with clients, whatever it may be. So he couldn't help it. He knocked on the door of the shoemaker's shop and said, listen, it's late. There's no one around. Why don't you go home and go to sleep? And the shoemaker looked at Rabbi Salanter and said, as long as the candle is still lit, then I know there's still time to mend. So as long as the candle is still lit, I know there is still time to mend. And the reason why I love bringing that story into the High Holy Days is because, especially when you bring up kind of the message of hope. Often people will say, I just feel utterly hopeless. I feel like I exist in the dark, whether it's what's occurring in the world or whether it's within my own relationships. I feel broken. And I always ask those people, do you feel like there's any ounce of light? Is there any room to take a step forward? And they'll often say yes. Even the smallest spark, they'll often say yes. And then I usually respond, then that means that there's still time to mend. There's still time to improve and change what's happening in the world. There's still time to improve those relationships that are the most important to us. And so that's my directive to all of us. There's still time to mend.
In fact, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs tells us about hope, that hope is not an idea, but hope's an action. When you hear the people say there's room, it's not just thinking about that, but it's actually taking that step. And I know we see this every single day in our community when people come in here, not only searching for hope, but what I love about this place, this sacred space, the sacred community, is that so many of us saying, how can I provide the hope for another?
Yes.
And that I know we go home fulfilled at night, not knowing that we've done jobs, but we're knowing that we're part of something so much greater than ourselves because of the people, because of the place, because of how this institution, this synagogue, this Beit Knesset, this house of gathering is also a moment of hope and a moment of light so that we can mend each other as well.
Okay. So on that note, we're wrapping up. We hope that we've given you...
We're just starting.
All right, well, that's true. We're just starting. So if you are interested in hearing more and being with us, as we like to say, build hope together, then join us at Sinai Temple. That's one. But second, what's your final message? What's your final blessing for the upcoming High Holy Days?
So my final blessing for today is actually the beginning of the blessing for the whole season. And I go back to Psalm 27. It's my favorite. The last line, Chazak v'yametz libecha v'kaveh el Adonai. It's actually taken from the book of Joshua, Be strong and take courage. Hope in the Lord and hope in Adonai. Again, it's not an idea. We have the ability to make hope in action. And that's going to be my personal plan and mission to give to us, to give to our community. And so, and I love that, again, Psalm 27 does not stop the day that Rosh Hashanah begins, but it said throughout the entire season and even beyond, to when the season is over, we can walk out of the synagogue and, most importantly, walk back in the synagogue, listening to the remnants of the sounds of the shofar with the ability to have that hope for tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Your blessing for us?
I think my blessing for us is also a blessing of repair. When I look at the shofar, like I said before, I see it as a call to action. If we only listen to the shofar and we don't heed its call, then it's in vain. So I want us to think about that shvarim. Shvarim is the notes of brokenness that we hear. And my blessing for all of us is that when we feel notes of brokenness, when we see notes of brokenness, as each of us do every single day, we don't passively sit back or passively close our eyes, but rather we really hear God's call and ask ourselves, how can I be the shofar? How can I be the cry, the call, the alarm bell that the world needs to hear? May we all take the first step.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Looking forward to celebrating with you, of course, with our family, and with you, truly our family. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.